Let's step back in time, shall we? We're going to 16th century Japan. It's an era of constant, brutal warfare and incredibly strict honor codes. But we're not going to focus on the warrior on the battlefield. No, we're going to follow his wife. We're going to see this world through her eyes, a woman born into the samurai class. And let me tell you, her story, it's one of duty, of sacrifice, and of a very, very quiet rebellion.
Just imagine hearing those words. The year is 1542. You're only 14 years old. A matchmaker's scroll lands on your father's table, and just like that, your entire future has been sold. The price? 300 koku of rice and a military alliance. You have to understand, this isn't a marriage proposal. Not really. It's a political transaction. And you're the currency.
From the very moment you were born, your path was basically set in stone. As the third daughter of a minor lord who was just desperate for sons, you weren't really seen as a child. You were seen as, well, an asset, a bargaining chip with a pulse. Your whole future was about which alliance could strengthen the clan. Your entire existence was just a strategic calculation made by the men all around you.
Your childhood wasn't really a childhood at all. It was more like a carefully managed curriculum for the role you were born to play. By the time you're 5, you're already learning to kneel for hours on end, to pour tea so perfectly it doesn't make a single ripple. Then at 13, you go through the traditional marks of womanhood, shaving your eyebrows, blackening your teeth. It's this rapid, relentless preparation for the moment you're handed over to a man literally twice your age.
You know, there's this profound contradiction at the very heart of your education. On one hand, you had to master the delicate arts of grace. A clumsy wife brought shame, after all. But on the other hand, you had to master the naginata, a deadly 6-foot polearm. Why? Because you were expected to defend the castle to the death when your husband was away. You were being trained to be both a beautiful ornament and a stone-cold killer.
The moment that seals your entire fate it's shockingly brief. It's a formal meeting called the omiai. Your future husband, this battle-scarred warrior, he looks at you the way a farmer might look at livestock. He just gives one single nod to your father, and over a single cup of tea, the deal is done. Your life's path is set. And nobody ever thinks to ask for your opinion.
So you arrive at your new husband's castle. You're a complete stranger in a home that just smells of suspicion. And here, all that training in grace and combat, it just fades into the background. Your value is now reduced to a single brutal function: your ability to produce a male heir for the clan.
The cold, hard reality was that a samurai marriage was not about love. It was a contract, plain and simple. He provided protection and status. You were responsible for, well, everything else. Producing heirs, managing the entire household, and upholding the family's honor, which often meant through your own suffering. It was a partnership of duty, not of affection.
7. I want you to remember that number. It represents a decade of private agony and very public failure. It's the number of pregnancies you lost, through miscarriage, stillbirth, infants who only lived for a few days. Each loss wasn't just a personal tragedy, it was a public mark against your name.
After that 7th loss, your husband takes a concubine. And all those court whispers, they solidify into accepted fact. You're labeled cursed, barren, a broken tool that failed at its one job. You're forced to kneel through accusations, endure bitter herbs and exorcisms, and slowly, piece by piece, you actually start to believe it yourself.
But here's the thing. While you're being publicly shamed for your fertility, a completely different story is unfolding behind the scenes. Your husband is gone for months, sometimes years at a time, away at war. And in his absence, the so-called barren wife becomes something else entirely. She becomes the keeper of the fortress.
I mean, look at this list. You are running everything. You are a master logistician, managing servants, organizing supply chains for the war, handling all the finances, and even acting as a judge for internal disputes. And when raiders approached, you stood on the walls in armor, naginata in hand. So, far from being broken, you were the pillar holding the entire clan together.
And then, after years of loss, a pregnancy survives. The birth is brutal and nearly kills you, but it ends with the cry of a living child, a daughter. And with her arrival, everything, and I mean everything, changes. A new, fierce purpose just ignites inside of you. You name her Hana, which means flower,
Because to you, that's what she is, this beautiful thing that somehow managed to grow from the blood-soaked soil of all your suffering. Your husband? He's indifferent. Your mother-in-law is disgusted it's not a boy. But for you, this child is your world. For the first time in your life, you love something more than you fear death.
When you start training a young Hana in secret, you don't just teach her the tea ceremony. You teach her how to use a dagger, how to fight. And you have to understand, this is a profound act of rebellion. You are giving your daughter the one thing you were never allowed to have, the power to defend herself, a chance for her own agency.
When Hana turns 12, the marriage offers start to arrive. Your husband, of course, sees a political opportunity. But you see the bars of the very same cage that trapped you. And for the first time, you openly defy him. You argue, you make excuses, you delay. He strikes you for your insolence, but you endure it. Protecting your daughter's future is a battle you are more than willing to fight.
But the world outside the castle walls, well, it finally starts to crumble. The endless wars turn against your clan, and it all leads to this catastrophic collapse that's going to force you and your daughter to make the most impossible choice of all. Okay, let's walk through this timeline. In 1570, your husband retreats in a battle, an unforgivable disgrace. He's ordered to commit seppuku, ritual suicide. Custom demands you follow him in death, but you look at your teenage daughter Hana, and you choose to live in disgrace just to protect her. And years later, that very choice leads you both here, trapped in a castle, during a final, hopeless siege.
20,000. That's the number of enemy soldiers surrounding the castle. And inside, it's just you, your daughter, and about 200 other women and children. The men are all gone, dead, or they've fled. There is no hope of rescue. There is absolutely no escape.
The enemy has made their terms crystal clear. There is no surrender. Capture means torture, violation, and being sold into slavery. The only other option, the only alternative left in the samurai code, is a self-inflicted death to preserve one's honor. This is the final choice that every single woman in that castle now has to face.
As you prepare for the end, Hana turns to you, and she understands what has to be done. You've been preparing her for this possibility her whole life. You taught me to be strong, you tell her. No, she whispers back. You taught me to survive. And you realize in that moment, this final act, it isn't about dying. It's the last, most terrible form of survival available to them.
When the enemy finally breaches the walls, they find the courtyard is completely silent. All 200 women and children lie in perfect, dignified rows. And in the inner chamber, they find a mother and her daughter, kneeling, their hands still wrapped together around a single dagger. Their faces, at last, at peace.
Her story really forces us to ask a difficult question, doesn't it? In a life that was completely defined by powerlessness, she found strength in managing a household and raising a daughter and in making an impossible final choice. It really leaves you wondering, when every single path leads to pain, what does it truly mean to be strong, to survive, to love?